Welcome to Phails. My name is Philip Jones, and today my guest is Linda O'Neill. She is the founder of Austin Tarot Therapy and a tarot reader.
Yes.
You want to wave to everybody? They're inside of that camera.
Oh, okay. Hello. Okay. Nice to see you.
Yeah. I'm really excited to spend this time with you. Today, I'm going to look at the camera again. Today, Phil Phails at Woo Woo Therapy. We'll start at the beginning in our exploration of Linda, and that starts with where you were born.
Yeah, Vietnam.
You were born in Vietnam?
Yeah. I'm a war baby. My dad was an American soldier. My mom, Vietnamese, and they fell in love with each other in Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah.
During World War II?
No.
Or during the Vietnamese War?
Yeah, during...
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
That's okay. Yeah. No, the Vietnam.
Yeah.
War in Vietnam. Yeah. And then you brought me over, and they live happily ever after. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't. But
did your mom come too?
We both came over, and it was not easy bringing us over, but we were able to come over. We ended up settling in Austin.
How old were you?
I was a year and a half old, so I don't know anything.
Okay.
And there weren't a lot of Vietnamese people in Austin in 1975.
I can imagine.
And so I just think that I didn't get to learn the language. My mother didn't teach me. She didn't teach me anything about the culture because she really believed that if we're going to come to America, we needed to be an American.
Really?
Yeah. So I didn't learn a whole lot. I wish I had, though. Yeah. It was a bummer.
So you didn't learn the language. You moved over here when you were a year and a half. You came with your mom and your dad.
Yeah. Then they had my sister. And so we lived in this tiny little apartment on Plaza del Norte, 7929 Galt Street, and not too far away from here. But it was a pretty rough neighborhood.
Plaza del Norte, that's on the east side?
No, it's like Anderson Lane, Hobby Lobby. You know where Laugh Stop used to be, or I guess the comedy club?
Hobby, yes.
Yeah.
I know exactly where
those apartment complexes.
That's not far from here.
Yeah, that's not far from here at all. And my mother, somehow she became the apartment manager there. And as a Vietnamese woman, she didn't understand occupancy laws. And so we were renting to immigrants who had 10 people in their family to a 2-bedroom apartment. So word got out, and I swear we drove all the white people and black people out of the neighborhood because it once was mostly white and black people, but now it was mostly it just became mostly immigrants, Mexicans, Guatemalans, Cambodians, Vietnamese,
Because she was lax on the laws and allowed a bunch of people to live there.
Yeah. And so, you had kids selling tamales door to door.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And then kids from the Gulf selling shrimp. You had people hanging their meat outside in the parking lot for it to dry.
No way.
Yeah. So it was a very we changed the neighborhood for sure. That's why I think that we have such a huge Vietnamese population in that area. I went to Lanier High School and, or Navarro High now. But, because, word got out that my mom was renting to big families.
And now we have Ranch 99 and this whole collection of Asian food options over there.
Yeah.
Wow. So your sister's older?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
How much later did your sister come along?
About a year later. Yeah. So she was born in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah. This was before y'all got to Austin? Y'all were in El Paso?
Yeah. El Paso, then San Antonio, then Harlingen, and then in Austin.
So were you traveling because your dad was?
He was in the military, but I think he was really disenchanted with the military. He was he wanted to be an American hero. John Wayne was his hero. And then he went to Vietnam. He realized that he is no John Wayne, and that the war was not what he thought it was going to be. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. And so
he got disenchanted with the military and
yeah. But he served 2 tours, mostly to bring me back. And yeah.
And then he married your mom?
They got married, and I think that he was an alcoholic because of the demons that he didn't realize he had PTSD.
Of course.
And he didn't realize that until like his until he turned around 60 that he was suffering. But like he died about a year and a half ago, because of alcoholism. He drank himself to death. So he had a lot of like stuff that he needed to work through, and he just never had the ability to do it. So, he just went through a lot, as my mom did, because she was in this country all alone, barely spoke English.
She taught herself English?
She taught herself English by working at McDonald's and watching Sesame Street. And she took courses, of course.
Goodness.
So, but she was able to do a lot in this country. And she's the most patriotic American that I know. And she hates to see it go down the tube with Trump, unfortunately, because she feels like she keeps calling Trump a communist. And because, in her world, a communist is a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a fascist, but like same, but different,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What was it like? So you're a first generation.
First generation, yeah.
What was that like? The thing that came to mind was like, did you have shame of your mom when you were in school bringing people home to your house?
I had a lot of shame being Asian, which is like, okay, so race in America is so interesting that I've had all my life people tell me what race I am. Like people don't allow me to choose, right? So, and I'll explain, like when I was growing up, because I was a mixed race child, I looked more Asian. And so I did get all the names called Chink and all of this and whatever. So I feel like I earned my Asian card, and so growing up, I was a little embarrassed to be Asian because I really wanted to be Black or Hispanic,
You wanted to be Black or Hispanic?
Because I grew up in a Black and Hispanic neighborhood.
You wanted to fit in.
I wanted to fit in, right? And so, so I was like, I remember going, I think it was like 10. I was like, okay, my first choice would be Mexican because nobody's picking on them. I could be Black. White, maybe, but it depends because you don't want to be a nerdy white kids. The white kids were getting picked on too. And I was like, oh, but Asians, man, we get it the worst. And so I wanted to be a dominant race, which in my mind at that time was
Mexicans.
Yeah. Because I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood, went to a school mostly Hispanics and African Americans, some whites too, because we were doing busing at that time. But yeah, but then I get older and go to college, and all of a sudden, all of my friends are white. Like and then I, get a career, even teaching, and even though there's like, it's probably more diverse as a career than a lot, more diverse in software engineering, I would imagine, but still, all of my friends were predominantly
Where'd
white.
you go to college?
Texas State,
San
and then
Marcos.
Yeah, and now people, they used to ask me what are you, which I actually miss that question because people just call me white now, and I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I earned my race, but and I get it because I'm white passing and whatnot, but I remember I was on a school bus, and people always wanted to know my race. And I think I was in the 5th grade. And the bus driver was letting us off the bus based on race. She was an African-American woman. And so it is really funny because we were going through busing at this time. So this is like early 80s. Yeah. And she was like, okay, all the Black, and this was on the east side. And so she was like, okay, all the Black kids off first, then all the Mexican kids. And then
it's just like waiting.
Yeah, and then
all the white kids, you're like, well, I'm still waiting.
Yeah, and then I didn't know when to go. Yeah. Do I go when I'm like, when she says all Asians are all white, and then she was irritated. She was like, well, what are you? I'm like, well, my mom's Asian, my dad's white. She was like, it's what your dad is. So whatever your dad is, that's your race.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard, that's not the first time I've heard. It's whatever your dad is your race.
Really?
I heard.
I would think it's like if it's what your mom is.
When I was younger?
Actually, you know what? I would think it's like whatever the heck you think it is.
Right. And so I always was interested in, I grew up really interested in race relations in America. Like I was fascinated by it because of these experiences, not to say that I had it like, that I was deprived or anything like that, but I did notice that there was a structure here. And that, like, when I first went to, it was L.L. Campbell Elementary. I remember when I was first going, my dad sat me down and he said, I know that we're not rich, but we're going to be going to a school with kids who have a whole lot less than you. And I didn't know what that meant. You know what I mean? Because I didn't, and, but it was just interesting, like having, like, I still, even in the because like you see power differently as a kid. You don't see power in money or status, or at least I didn't at that time, because we all felt like we were poor. But, and then reflecting on those experiences in the race structure and the class structure and the power structure, it's fascinating to me, So when I brought that into my history classes, I really enjoyed teaching history, teaching it from all side points, teaching, I guess they would call it critical race theory, but it's just teaching history, right? It's just teaching it from the winner side and teaching it from those who weren't seen as the winners at that point, like our perspective,
Is there a way you could tell me what critical race theory is in a short, like an elevator pitch on it?
Well, I guess there's
I've only heard it spoken in a really polarizing way.
Yeah.
Some people are like no to it, and some people like, is there a way to understand the concept of it?
I think that critical race theory, the on the right side, what they're hearing is that all white people are racist. That is not critical race theory. I think that critical race, as I understand it, is that the laws that have been implemented over time have a power structure to them where it kept a group of people down.
Systemic racism.
Right? And so, systemic racism is real. There are laws passed, and to deny that. And
there's the red line in Austin, right? It was redlined where only certain people could live. What was it, west of 35, and certain people could live east of 35.
The 1925, and that's Clarksville used to be, predominantly black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then if they didn't move, they discontinue services. So there is an inherently a racist system that we live in. And I think that that's really hard for people to understand. And I'm not saying that I just think that's a fact and not up for debate.
Yeah.
Everything
is part of this context we're in.
Right.
And race plays a role in
everything. And that's really hard for, I think, your Generation X as well.
I was born in 1977.
Okay, so we're Generation X.
Okay.
And so Gen X is all about, being colorblind and the Benetton commercials and whatever. And that was a lie. You know what I mean?
Mm.
We thought that we were so advanced. And then when the O.J. Simpson trial happened, I was genuinely at that moment shocked that by the reaction from, Black Americans, not realizing how corrupt and how inherently and set up and designed our laws and our Constitution is racist.
Yeah.
So critical race theory to me is kind of teaching that, but not so that you hate your country, so that you understand that your country needs to evolve.
Well, there's holding accountable.
Yeah.
There's this, you love something, you hold it accountable.
Right.
You ask it,
Right.
you air grievances.
Right.
It's not about your bad, shame.
Right.
Only the amount of shame, like we discussed earlier, the amount that will bring positive change.
Mm-hmm.
Come back socially to do better.
Right.
To be more, compassionate, empathetic, more fair.
to live up to the very things that we say that we are, to be the city upon a hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's okay. And like when I taught history, his story, right? When I taught his story, I really wanted my students to know that I want your story told in this as well. And most of my students were, Black and Hispanic.
Yeah.
So no wonder they're not interested in history if you're always teaching the white perspective, because the white perspective.
Where are you in it? Yeah.
And it's not like we're going to change the story or shame white people or make your kids uncomfortable. That's we evolve, and there's no country out there that is pristine.
Right. Well, there's no human being that's pristine.
Right.
This human life is messy and it's imperfect, and it's and looking at ourselves.
We are the devil, we are the angels.
Yin and yang.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Vietnam conflict, right? You can really easily look at the footage and really be ashamed of the American soldiers' behavior. But then when you look at after the war, the Cambodia and what happened, what the Vietnamese
Khmer Rouge,
the Khmer Rouge, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? Like, we all have blood on our hands. And the story is not they were evil and they were good. My mother has beautiful stories of American soldiers who were just lonely and sad and crying on the streets because they didn't know what they were doing there.
Yeah. I think of Thich Nhat Hanh's poem, Call Me By My Name.
Yeah.
As we're talking about this,
Mm-hmm.
there's, I am the, he goes through how he is all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
He is the farmer in the field. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
He's the criminal, and he's the priest, and he's the poor person, and he's the rich person, and he's all of the characters, all the archetypes in our world.
Yep.
And it's this haphazard set of circumstances that brings us to arrive at this present moment in whatever ego form we have.
And then it is, again, going back to, who do you feed? What archetype do you want to feed? If the hate and all of that, you don't want to feed the evil side of yourself. And so it's good to be aware of when you have thoughts that you're not proud of, and not to water those thoughts.
Yeah. For some reason, I keep thinking, yeah, but I don't want my evil part to be too thirsty.
Yeah.
Not to say I don't want to starve it, because then, starving people do weird stuff. So I want to have that balance. It's that middle way. It's the Mahayana, the middle way.
If you go into the woo-woo world, it's called shadow work, right?
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging, like, okay, we have our shadowy. Yeah.
Get it out in front of us.
Yeah.
I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. I'm going to put you out front.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to hide you so you can do dirty business in my subconscious.
Right. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so what kind of work did your dad do? This is a little segue.
Well, okay, so my father, he used to say, like, I'm no quitter, because he always lost his job.
He did.
Yeah, he could not keep a job.
He couldn't keep a job. What kind of jobs did he try to keep?
I mean, he delivered coffee. He delivered magazines.
He delivered coffee?
Yeah, he delivered coffee, magazines. He worked for Cane's Coffee. He did a stint at Dell. He really liked that work there. He did a lot of different things, but, alcoholism and depression kind of keep you from, actually.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Just call it what it is.
Yeah.
He was probably self-medicating with alcohol. Keeping demons at bay and navigating a lot of mental health challenges.
Yeah. Yep. And I think ultimately the pandemic ruined him, because he was starting to get some money, finally filled out the paperwork for the VA. It was making more money than he'd ever made before. And then just didn't know what to do with himself, But yeah. I mean, he was a good man. He had a big heart, but he also had his demons. Yeah.
So it seems like, was he the breadwinner? Was your mom a stay-at-home mom? Or your mom was working too?
My mother was working 2 jobs. And finally, when
she was the breadwinner.
She was the breadwinner. And finally, when he left, I think she was really scared, but it was actually a good thing. And he left and she worked 2 jobs, and raised 2 daughters. And then it got really, really hard for her because, like, I'm an American teenager. You know what I mean? I didn't really understand.
God.
I had a Camaro. Like I was,
You got a Camaro?
yeah.
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 Problem.
Yeah, Camaro, listening to Bitching Camaro by the Dead Milkmen, all of that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like super popular or whatever, but I wasn't. But I wanted to be a teenager and I didn't really care about like the struggle,
Yeah.
which was really hard on my mom because we had 9 people from Vietnam immigrate to live with us. And I don't think people understand how hard that is because maybe 9 to 11, it was 11 people that you have to make sure as a host family that they have jobs and a car and a place to stay. And it doesn't come like they don't come immediately. So, in addition to taking care of 2 girls, working 2 jobs, being a single mom without an education, never making more than 30 grand a year, we had to pay rent for 2 more extra apartments and have 2 cars ready and jobs ready for the 11 people.
Whoa.
Who were going to be coming.
Were they family members or
family members? Yeah. And so she didn't, and that was a 2 month, like for 2 months, like nobody was in those apartments. Right.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, it's a, like it took 20 years, but then like when they're coming, you got to make sure you have all of these things. And so, you have these things, okay, we got them. And then you're like, well, okay, it's going to be another month. You're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then they all came and I don't know, unfortunately, like my mom took care of them. She wasn't sleeping at all. Like she was sleeping maybe an hour to 2 hours a day.
What?
Yeah. And then she had this loser boyfriend and 2 like teenage daughters and nobody was helping her.
A loser boyfriend?
Yeah, he sucked. And we all sucked actually. And
she was just surrounded by
people who weren't helping her.
Yeah, and it sounds like she was doing a lot to keep everything afloat.
And we're like, why isn't she happy? She's always in a bad mood, like
2 jobs.
And all like taking care of like now like 13 mouths to feed. That her body completely gave up on her, and and she got rheumatoid arthritis, where like she's been disabled since like I think the age of 42.
She's still alive?
She's still alive, and she's like very, very like. She's tough, but
hell yeah, she's tough.
She's been through a lot, but it's like so interesting that if you push your body to that limit where you just give everything, that your body will give up on you, and that's what it did to my mom.
What's her name?
Mimi. Her real name is Mai Dung, Mydung.
Mai Dung.
Yeah, but then she realized what that meant in English. My dung.
My poop.
Yeah, so she was
the
like...
poop that I own.
Yeah, so she's like, just call me Mimi, so, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Me.
Yeah, so...
What did you call her?
Call her mom. I would
call her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your dad?
My dad? I called him Dad. I tried calling him Greg once. That did not go over well.
He's Greg.
Yeah. I said sir once. He's like, don't call me sir. I mean, he had a real problem with authority.
I mean...
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
What? So a Camaro and listening to Dead Milkmen, I kind of get this vibe of you as maybe a bad kid.
I wanted to be, but I had a strict mother, so I can only be bad in the scope of like an Asian mom.
But what was bad like for you?
Well, okay. So I still had to make good grades, but I wasn't making good grades.
What is good grades? Like all A's?
All A's, but I wasn't making good grades. So what I did was I took my report card, Xerox copied or made copies.
Oh my God.
Took an X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
Turned my 69s into 96s. And then I was like, and they were like, why didn't you get into a good college? I don't know. Racist. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Critical race theory, Mom.
I don't know,
Come on, Mimi.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so I would do things on the sly that that's
pretty good.
Yeah. And so because they thought I was getting good grades.
Did you ever get caught?
No.
You didn't get caught.
Okay, one time. I did get caught because I thought I was so clever because me and another guy, his name was Bruce, we would steal exams from the teacher's desk.
Oh my goodness.
And then we would sell the answers.
Nice. You and Bruce had a little.
We had a little thing
racket.
going, a little
Yeah.
racket going. And
How many people were buying these answers?
you know, I mean, and it was more the thrill of doing it.
How much were you selling these answers for?
I don't even remember. I wish, you know.
$5, $10.
Who knows?
Nickel bag.
Maybe, you know. But I did get caught by a Spanish teacher, not once, but twice. And so this is back in the day where like they gave you I failed Spanish. Like I didn't get the credit. In AISD, that would never happen. You don't fail kids here. If your kids are failing, by the way, in AISD, your kid sucks. Okay. Your kid is doing absolutely no work at all.
They'll let folks pass.
They'll pass anybody. You're not allowed to give a 50. I mean, you're not allowed to give a 0 if they do nothing. You have to give a 50. Last time I checked. Or if they would say that's not true, I would say administration would strongly encourage you not to give a 0. In fact, I don't know anybody who actually does.
I think I heard one of my daughters goes to McCallum, the other one goes to Lamar.
Yeah.
And I think I heard one of them say that they got a grade in the 80s and they said it was an A. And I was just like, what? I didn't make it makes sense to me. 90 to 100 was A, has always been an A in my world. 80 to 90, 80 to 89 was a B. 70 to 79 was a C.
Makes sense to me.
And then, 60 to 69 was a D.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And below 60, you failed.
Right.
You got an F.
Right. Yeah. Failure is learning.
Yeah.
We don't fail kids anymore.
You didn't fail any classes? Oh, you got that 69 though. You got that D.
Plenty of classes.
You got that D plus.
Yeah. I got a 0. She gave me a big old fat 0.
In Spanish.
Or
you were selling them grades.
I was selling them grades. Yeah. So
what happened that?
I wasn't having that. Yeah.
No, No hay nada aquí.
Yeah. I thought it was so slick. I thought it was like, I was looking around. Like, I remember I was looking around. I was like, oh man, these suckers actually really trying. I'll tell you what though, that 0, when I finally got to college, I never cheated. I was like too afraid of getting caught. So failure is good.
Yeah, you learn from that experience.
Yeah, we need to fail people.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Were you and Bruce romantically connected?
No.
Just criminal. It was just criminal enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
When I was in the 6th grade, I guess I was just kind of like an entrepreneurial at heart. Because you remember that book, Forever by Judy Blume?
No. Judy Blume wasn't necessarily.
Well, it's a hot and heavy book.
Okay.
You know, she talks about like this girl's first time and like it's hot stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I would sell, you would get 20, you could read like for 30 minutes, you could read it for 50 cents or something like that.
You would do that. You had Judy Blume and you were selling. You were selling reading?
I was selling reading, but it was dirty. It was dirty stuff. You know what I mean? It was about her getting her nipples hard.
So this is like this was romance novels. Yeah.
But 12 years old. I remember my teacher picking up. She's like, "You guys are way too young reading this." But I made about a couple of bucks doing that.
At least people were reading.
I know.
That's what we need.
I guess.
Was your sister getting in any trouble? Was she a good kid?
No, she was perfect.
She was perfect. She was the second one. She
wasn't actually perfect. She was not perfect. She had it a little harder than I did.
Why?
I think she was tougher. You know, she was like stubborn, you know.
She was stubborn.
Yeah.
So she was more like Greg.
I'll give you an example. Okay, this is back in the day when you got spankings and stuff, right?
You guys got spankings?
Yeah. I didn't because I ran. You know?
You ran away.
I ran away. And then when they caught me, before it even hit me, the anticipation scared me so much. I was screaming like they were going to murder me, you know? And so I didn't, like, they barely touched me. You know what I mean? Because I was screaming so loud, you know?
My goodness.
My sister, stubborn. My dad was spanking her with a belt and she turned around and she said, "That didn't hurt."
Oh my God. That's not what you say.
No. What do you think is going to happen next?
He's going to try to hit you harder.
He's going to try. And every time he hit her harder, she said, "That didn't hurt." So he put the belt down, got the hanger and whipped her with that.
Oh my God, Greg. No, sir.
She didn't say that didn't hurt, but she still didn't cry. So that's how tough she was.
I mean, you call it tough, but I just think that's What? Yeah, you're whispering that.
Yeah, I don't want her to beat me up. Yeah, no, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want her to beat
Yeah.
you up either,
Yeah.
Linda.
Yeah, she's my younger sister, but I'm afraid of her.
Oh my God, she's tough.
She's very tough. Yeah. Yeah. So she had it harder because she was stubborn, you know. Yeah. I remember she got hickey when she was 12.
A hickey?
Yeah.
When she was 12?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood. They moved a little faster in that area. So yes.
Things moved a little faster in the Hispanic area.
I mean, just, passion. I don't know. But
it's a romantic
culture,
yeah.
Right? And so but she had a hickey. And I remember my mom's boyfriend was like, "Why did you do that? What is wrong with you?" And she's like, "Because it felt good."
That's an honest answer.
I know, but I was like, "Damn,
dang, spitting the truth."
Yeah, damn,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she had it harder. She also got boobies bigger because she got it from my dad's side, the white side, and a 13-year-old girl with like C's and. It's a different world.
Trying to get attention.
Yeah. So she had it a lot rougher than I did.
What brought the discipline? So discipline seemed like it was spanking.
Mm-hmm.
Did your dad give it, or did your mom, or was it both?
It was mostly my dad, but he didn't do it often, right? And so it wasn't like we were, he would like snap the belt as a warning or put, you know what I mean? Because
my dad did that too.
Yeah. So dumb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it had an impact.
It had an impact, right?
That's snap.
Yeah. I was like, okay. I got my attention. No, but
what kind of things would you do to elicit that level of response? Because I think that's like corporal punishment is like the highest escalation.
Honestly, it's just nothing. I just think we were yelling at each other. My sister and I fought all the time. Your parents are tired, they don't want to put up with your shit. And the only thing to shut them up might be violence. So I think,
just to like
straight up,
be quiet.
Yeah. So,
whoa, that's it?
Yeah.
Y'all didn't like steal from the local grocery store or like.
No, my sister once, this is how tough she is, once got caught stealing. The police came in and made a big show to scare her, right? Because she was like,
"You're gonna scare this lady."
Yeah. And my mom, Vietnamese, she's pretty scary too,
Yeah.
The police is like, yeah, we're about to arrest her. And my mom, and this is out in the house, the whole neighborhood sees. My mom's like, what do you want? And Susan's like, I don't care. And she's like, oh my God, what do we
do with this kid?
Yeah.
Dumb as a bag of rocks.
Yeah, no.
God bless you, Susan.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, just
toughness is awesome. And
yeah, she.
What did they do? Did they take her to jail?
No,
poor child?
no. I mean, she got released, but she went to the room and she just, she cried, but not in the way I cry. Like I would have been like, like a real show of it. Silent tears, just angry, silent tears, just coming out.
Where do you think that anger came from?
She's a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo.
I know. So is my dad.
Oh, Greg.
Yeah.
Me, Greg, and Susan.
Yeah. No.
Ride or die.
Yeah. When's your birthday?
September the 12th.
She's September 14th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the anger didn't come from being a Virgo. Where did it come from?
I don't think she ever truly felt loved. I think
from Mimi or Dad.
Well, my mother couldn't really show love because she was working all the time. So she was always stressed. My dad and I had a special relationship. We could have deep conversations. My mother's boyfriend, she was with him for 13 years. And he liked me more because, he introduced me to Pink Floyd and I was down with it, and we have these like deep discussions about like what happens after we die in the fourth dimension and all of this stuff. And I'm like 12, he's high, and so like, so I had these relationships that she didn't have. And so she really gravitated toward, the bad kids. And she was huffing paint and she was, just really sad. I got caught with weed, but her punishment for huffing paint and glue was way more severe than me getting caught with weed, right? Like he really didn't enjoy her. And convinced my mother to send her off into a mental institution.
That's the boyfriend.
The boyfriend. And basically, and then my sister found out that her boyfriend in the news, nobody told her, I didn't know, but Benny was her boyfriend. He was playing Russian roulette and lost.
What?
Yeah, and she found us out in the midst. So she had it much harder than I did. I was all about rock, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I mean? Stealing exams, being a little mischievous and whatever. You know what I mean? But I didn't go through the trauma that she went through.
Well, it sounds like she had her needs around connection and intimacy and love. And that's kind of my next question. I do a bit of a binary here. And one side of that is, what does discipline look like? What is, what was anger? What was conflict?
Yeah.
And the other side is like, when did you feel a felt sense of love with your dad or your mom?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel, what were you doing and when did that occur?
I mean, I felt loved by both. I remember I just really liked reading, and my dad would just pour all these books, give me all these books, bought me a typewriter for my, for Christmas and whatever.
Did y'all do stuff together?
I mean, he encouraged me writing. We didn't really do things together, but he encouraged, I felt seen, right? Because often I felt invisible as a child, right? So, but being seen as smart, even though I didn't make good grades, being seen as creative, made me feel good, Yeah. Yeah. And with my mom, I was just sharing this story. She worked all the time. It was really hard for her to show love because she didn't receive love as a child, nor did my father.
Yeah.
Right. So neither one of these parents, both come from, they are trauma bonding, although they didn't know it. They came from really hard families that didn't really love them or know how to show love. My mom's family was incredibly abusive, and as my father's.
And then put PTSD on that.
And then, but the war, right? And so, neither one of them knew how to show love. But one day my mother came home at 3:00 in the morning from third shift. That was her break because she was working third shift, and I had my friends in my closet. Nobody was allowed to come over, but they were hiding. And I'm like, hey, Mom, how's it going? Can I make you a sandwich? Da, 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 da. And my mom was so happy to see me, so kind. She was so relaxed. I'd never seen her relaxed before. She was actually laughing at some of at me, but in a fun way, and so her relax was, I felt loved.
You felt loved.
Yeah. She worked so hard, but I see my mom once a week now. I feel love from her all the time. But
when you were a kid, it was scarce commodity.
It was.
I mean, obviously the work she's doing is love.
Right.
This being a breadwinner, making sure the light's on and there's food in the, and that's harder for a child to understand when they just want a felt sense of love, to connect, to be seen.
It's true. It's true. But then I would almost argue that is not real love, right? So there's
you say that, what is not real love?
To just be a provider.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had depression during COVID, and I've got 2 daughters, and I was providing, and I think my dad provided, and there was a lack of engagement, a lack of participation, a lack of
being present.
The investment in connection is paying attention.
Right.
You pay attention.
Exactly.
That's your investment into connection and intimacy. Yeah, and I've I had opportunities then. Yeah.
But your awareness of it now is good.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, there's I was reading in one of Thich Nhat Hanh's book is that, it was about a couple, and he was always working to provide for his love, because he loved her so much. And eventually they got divorced, and, and he's like, how could you do this to me? I did all of this for her. And I was like, well, you didn't water the seeds of connection. You didn't pay attention.
That's paying attention.
Yeah.
That's being present, and you could probably work less and
get more.
Be with someone who doesn't care about whatever the fancy stuff, the extra work brings, and be present. Give the love.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's a balance. There's a middle way clearly. And
Mm-hmm.
what was it like for you in that environment where you seem to have books, you seem to have
Mm-hmm.
different things. You were seen by your dad around typewriter, around writing and reading.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that like we all have inner child wounds, right? And
Yeah.
so, wounds of like at some point, no matter how great your parents were,
Yeah.
they didn't see you, hear you, or you felt abandoned or at some point, right? And sometimes of those three, the one feels greater, right? And so for me, I didn't feel so much abandoned. That's not my wound. That's my sister's wound is abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
My wound is not being seen,
Not being seen.
right, And so like when you take that and you apply it as an adult, and so when I think about the times where I'm getting like really getting my feelings hurt for something that looks small but feels big,
Mm-hmm.
it's because I'm not being seen,
Not
right?
being seen.
So for example, like if I'm in a trio conversation and I'm not able to participate as live, then I'm like, they don't see me. I don't even exist. And then it feels bigger than what it is. What it is two people really engaged with each other
Yeah.
and not leaving me out because that's the intent or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it feels bigger because I didn't feel seen. So for you, what do you think yours is? What is it, the wound? Abandonment, not being seen, not being heard?
Good question. Abandonment, not being seen or not being heard. I felt lonely.
Yeah, so that would be abandonment, right?
I felt lonely.
Mhm.
And on the dad's side, it was neglect.
Yeah.
Like I just never felt like no one paid a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my mom's side, it was just the stepdad was,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom, they would kind of do this dance of the cycle of violence. They escalate and
Mm-hmm.
they would both rise in intensities where it was just a scary environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So definitely it feels like, and how does that show up in adulthood?
I think it's, I have a real, I love people.
Mm-hmm.
I love connecting. I love exploring people just like we're
Mm-hmm.
doing here. I love friendship,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of scared of it when it really happens.
Uh-huh.
Almost like, think of this like a Neanderthal
Mm-hmm.
that like wants warmth.
Mm-hmm.
And when he finds fire, he picks it up and it burns him
Mm-hmm.
and it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fear of it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because the caregivers that I had that I relied on for love and affection
Mm-hmm.
also hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love what you just said because I just realized this about myself. When I get somebody does something nice for me, when I'm seen, I get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I don't like it when I am seen, and I don't like it when I'm not
seen. Yeah.
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 And so I have to like in that moment, I have to like you deserve this. And it could be something so small. Like I go to Soup Peddler a lot, and sometimes I go there so often they give me an extra shot or maybe a bigger size or the water for free. Whatever, right? They'll do something nice. And
Right.
I always leave like feeling uncomfortable. And I don't know why. And I was like, you deserve nice things. Like you're seen. They see you every day.
Yeah.
It's all good.
They
It's fine.
appreciate it. It's
They
gratitude.
appreciate it's gratitude,
They're like,
you know?
saying, we're friends with you.
Yes. And I don't like know how to receive it, you know?
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like I guess the worry I have, and you can share how it manifests for you. There's like maybe an awkwardness I have in receiving
Right.
or in being seen. I'm always almost like maybe push it away.
Yeah.
Or
because it's what you're used to and it feels more comfortable. Like, so like the brain. Yeah.
I know what I do. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I like make it trivial, or I make it like that they want something from me.
Right.
And they're like just trying to manipulate me to get something. It's
right.
never genuine. It's never like, oh, they just like me.
Mm-hmm.
They want connection.
Yeah.
I do the same. I anthropomorphize my Peppermint, the dog,
Mm-hmm.
when she comes and wants probably affection. I'm like, oh, she just wants a treat.
Yeah.
It's this way of transactionalizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I interrupted you. Where were we going?
I mean, basically there. That's, just being uncomfortable when just being uncomfortable. Oh, I guess like what I was going to say with the brain is that like because you're used to not receiving it, the brain's like, well, I know how to feel. I know how to feel this emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to process this emotion. And when you introduce something new, even though you want it, like, that's not comfortable. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
So it pushes it away. And I think that is the moment where you speak to your inner child, right? And say, hey, it's totally okay. Peppermint really does want your cuddles. So,
Yeah.
hey, Linda, it's okay. You
can have the free water.
You can free the
shot.
water.
They like you.
They like
You're a
you.
cool chick.
Yeah.
You got the Camaro.
Yeah.
You got the typewriter.
The Honda Fit now, but yes, right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you yeah.
You're worthy.
Yeah.
I'm worthy.
Right. Yeah.
We're worthy.
Yes. And so
intrinsically.
Right. And just have to remind ourselves.
Oh man. So so next you go to San Marcos. What was your life like you're in San Marcos at Texas State, or were you commuting?
I was commuting. And so, I had, older friends and they were all smarter than me and I wanted to be smart like them and they all went to college. So I was like, I'm going to go to college, and I'm glad I waited. I didn't go to college until I was 20. And, I'm glad I waited and I loved it. And, I thrived because I felt like my intellectual abilities were taken seriously and not, you know what I mean? We were taught to think and question, and it was a lovely experience. I loved it.
You had 2 years though.
I had.
Did you graduate when you're 18 and then?
Yeah, I had 2 years. Yeah. So, yeah.
What'd you do during those 2 years?
Oh, well, I went to Guatemala for the first time. It was my first time out of the country.
What'd you do in Guatemala?
I had this wonderful friend, teacher. Her name was Susie. And I say teacher, she was a total slut. But she was the best, though, in a way, like.
No slut shaming over here.
I know.
Okay?
I mean that in the most positive way. Like,
yeah.
Like, and that's not shaming. I think that, like, I want to take that word back, right?
I'm just goofing with you.
Yeah.
But
So,
she was sexually free had autonomy and independence and followed her passion. Yeah. And it was a little slutty. What?
Yeah, introduced me to a lot of new things.
In Guatemala,
well, just in life in general. We won't go to all the things, but she introduced me. She was my teacher. So, but yeah, and then I went to ACC and I found ACC like high school, but with Ashburn.
Wait, where'd y'all go in Guatemala?
We just went I think we followed the gringo trails, they called it, you know.
Is it that, the lago, the lake there?
Yeah.
Lake Atitlan?
Yeah, Lake
Where
Atitlan.
all, like, hippies and stuff. You went to Simuk Champay?
Yeah, we did.
Tikal?
Yeah, we went to where all the white people went. Yeah, yeah.
We've been there. I wonder if we were there at the same time.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. She introduced me to a lot. So a lot of self-discovery, but college was amazing.
Then you went to ACC? I
went to ACC, did not thrive at ACC.
No, why not?
I felt like it was too easy. It felt like high school. I didn't feel like, it wasn't like what I imagined college to be, right? It didn't have the seats and the professor. I mean, it did, but it felt like a classroom. You didn't feel like college, you know?
Didn't have some characteristic of college that we were looking for.
Yeah. And then it felt kind of easy. And then so I didn't do well.
You wanted to be tested more academically?
Yeah.
Which campus did you go to?
Northridge. And then I went to the Rio Grande campus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cool one. That was the old high school, right?
The old high school, yeah.
I went to that one for a little while.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That one actually felt like a college, you know.
It's funny that the one that is a legit high school felt like a college.
Yeah, it did. It had that feeling about it, you know.
Yeah, you like that one.
Yeah, I like that one. But I didn't thrive. I didn't do well. So when I applied to Texas State, I wrote them a long letter begging them, you know, whole sob story. I'm
Vietnamese,
Vietnamese, you know.
Greg is,
you know. And
you really wrote a letter. Yeah. I had to write a letter to get into UNT because they didn't let me in with my grades and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they took that story.
They did.
They let me in. They let you in?
They let me in. Conditionally, I could not make a C.
I had a condition too. I had to take some class. Yeah. Some like preparatory class.
I was like, fine, just get me in the door.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, get me in the door.
Let me in.
Let me in.
And did you make good grades?
I graduated with a 3.5. I'm so uneducated. I don't even know what it's called, but I graduated like 3.5.
Right.
Magna blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So
magna cum laude or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
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 What'd you study?
History.
You studied history because that's what you ended up
Yeah.
teaching. You
Yeah.
studied history. Was there a part of history that you gravitated to?
American history. And I think because of the Vietnam War, I wanted to understand, and the civil rights movement. Like I said, I was really interested. Like, why was everyone freaking out about busing? Why was that a thing? Like, and then also like the Vietnam War, like, and then the civil rights movement, and all of that stuff, felt like it was my story. And so I wanted to learn more about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
What was your college life like? You were commuting down to San Marcos?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was so much fun that it took me like 10 years to get my bachelor's. I didn't want to,
Were you working at the same time?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it was a lot of fun.
When in this story do you first kind of have a tarot reading?
With my mom, but we would get it from Vietnamese people. And
Your mom was a reader?
no, in fact, she doesn't know I'm a reader. She'd be very upset with me.
Really?
Yeah, she doesn't know I do this for a living.
She doesn't have internet?
No, I mean, she doesn't know how to use it, so it's fine. Yeah.
Don't
So
tell him, Mimi.
no, don't. But I do have the other practice, Good Thoughts NLP. So
Well,
she's very.
what would she think so what's there? There's something there with mom and tarot.
She doesn't want me to mess with that world, even though, like,
She thinks it's the devil's work?
she might not necessarily because she's a Buddhist, but she just doesn't want me to tap into that, like bring any bad spirits or anything like that.
You wouldn't do that, would you?
I mean, I think in her world that it would be not my choice.
The demons the bad spirits would come along
Yeah.
with because in Buddhism, the Four Noble Paths,
Mm-hmm.
the Four Noble Truths, the fourth one is the Eightfold Path,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that is right work.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where she sees it being challenging?
I mean,
Right profession, right?
right. Yeah. And so, but I feel like the work that I do is right work because I feel like it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
Right. I
I agree.
I think that she's worried about bad spirits, like for my protection.
I don't understand which is she Theravada Buddhism?
She would not know what to call that. No, but like, I think that just like, think of Catholicism, right? Catholicism is Christianity, right?
Right.
Even though Catholics don't feel like Catholics feel like Christian is a separate religion. They really do. And I understand why, right? Because you have a lot of like folklore kind of tied into this Christianity, right? So I think that has thing to do with like her belief system in Buddhism. Like in Vietnam, ancestor work is very, very powerful, right? And so spirit work is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So kind of blending those two folklore, cultural stuff, it's a blend of all of her belief systems.
Yeah. And so where did you get that first reading? It was through the Vietnamese angle.
Yeah.
Who was it? The people that came over?
My very, very first reading was by a Buddhist monk.
Really?
In Houston named oh my God. Why can't I remember his name? Because he's Cochin. Buddhist monk Cochin. And he has a temple. He still exists out there. And if you go, you have to get there early, like around 4 a.m. The line starts. He sees people for free. He'll see up to 80 people a day.
Really?
Yeah. And by the 80th person, he's done, and he does it very, very fast. And
very fast?
Yeah. He just spews, like he just says. Like
he pulls cards and then
yeah, but it's like he may pull cards, he may not. It's just up to him.
Whoa! Do you remember your first reading?
Yeah, he said it was so fast and so good, but basically he said that basically he said I was gonna have a great life, and so not to worry, but
so Buddhist.
Yeah,
What if he's just doing that 80 times?
Right, probably. But
You're going to have a beautiful life and you shouldn't worry.
He said, he did say that my husband, I asked him, is my husband going to be a firefighter? He's like, yes. And I said, okay, well, we're going to get married next year. He's like, no, this year. You're going to get married this year. And, oh, no, I think that was my mom's question. But anyway, he was right. My mom said that my mom asked him, is my daughter going to get married? And he said, yes, she's going to get married this year. And my mom said, no, next year. He's like, no. And he yelled at her, this year. And then, it turns out that I got not so stressed out. I'm just like, oh my God, throwing a wedding is hard. I don't want to do that. Let's just elope. And so we got married 2 months later.
This year.
He was right. Yeah. And recently I saw him because my mom had an illness, and it was just such a strange experience. But because I'm Vietnamese, I could go on Tuesday, and it says line shorter. And but then they saw that I didn't speak Vietnamese, and they're like, "Oh, you're not really Vietnamese," So you have to come back tomorrow and wait in line. I'm like, "Oh my God."
You're trying to play that Vietnamese card.
Well, no, they asked me if I was Vietnamese. I said yes. And so, okay, you can come on Tuesday. And so I showed up on Tuesday, and they said, oh, you're not really Vietnamese. But I'm like, oh my God, I am.
I am Vietnamese.
Why is everyone trying to tell me what I am? And, but luckily they said, okay, he said, wait here and he will talk to your mom on the phone. And he drives up in his car and he tells my mom, he tells her all the things that are wrong with her. He says, he's like to the T. And he tells her to do light through a candle all the way down, and you're gonna have a long life. How he knew what was going on with her. He's like, you have intestinal problems or something wrong with your stomach. You have a hard time sleeping at night because of your stomach. And he's like, but it has more to do with your heart. It's not your stomach. Well, he was right.
No way.
Yeah. She had but a stent in her heart. He's like, you're going to live to 83. And she's like, oh my God, that's too long. He's like, yeah, but you're going to live to 83.
Why does she think that the cards bring evil spirits if she's going and getting these readings from the Buddhist?
I don't know.
The Mimi works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Don't question Mimi. Yeah. Don't question Mimi.
Except for the Buddhist guy could. This year.
And he was right. So yeah. I mean, he's no joke. He's good though. His whole thing is your ego is not your amigo.
Where do I see him? If I want to see him?
It's in Houston. If you look up Cochin, Caochin, get there early. Bring some water, bring a chair, stand in line.
When does he start seeing people?
8 in the morning.
But if you want to be there,
you got to get there about 4 or 5 hours early.
What?
The line is long.
He's popular.
Yep. Master Coach. Most of his clients are Hispanic. Yeah.
So did you still identify with the Hispanic culture?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You still do now?
Yeah.
Is your husband Hispanic?
No, he's a white guy, but most of my friends are Hispanic. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, how can you not be? How in Texas, not have some blending of that culture into your life? You know what I mean?
Glad I could see.
Yeah, it's we're on their land.
I mean, well, there's
They were trying to block white immigrants from coming, right? With the Texas the Mexican-American War.
Yeah.
They're like, there's too many of them coming into, Tejas, which was Mexico, right?
Yeah.
There's too many of them. They're not becoming Catholic. They're bringing in their slaves. We're not down with that. We're going to limit white settlers. And that's when
Well, you go a little bit, you go a little bit earlier than that. You had a lot of First Nation folks that were,
of course,
were here before the Spanish and the Spanish Mayan kind of mezcla would come over and just said, "Oh, this is ours." Mm-hmm. So I guess there's a whole, before Europeaners were fighting over it. There was a whole nother group that was here
Yeah.
that you see there when you go to McKinney Falls.
Mm-hmm.
There's areas where those people were
Mm-hmm.
setting up camps.
Mm-hmm.
Before this place was all underwater before that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's why you see like fossils in
Mm-hmm.
some of the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Enchanted Rock, or if you go to
Even if you go to Onion Creek, where the dogs, like the dog
yeah,
park there,
you can
find
see
fossils
fossils. All
there.
this stuff was underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's fascinating.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when did it become something you invited into your life on a regular basis?
Tarot?
Yeah.
I'm a girl, right? And so like
What does that mean?
so
I'm
you
a
know, I'm a
girl.
girl. So
I
like
had girl lunch.
it starts with like high school or junior high or middle school, whatever you want to call it.
You're
And it's
doing
like,
girl talk now.
yeah.
That's the girl tone.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh my God, I love him so much. I wonder what his sign is. And then you like learn the
Astrology.
astrology and like who's your best mate, and like, is it in the stars? It's just really just a way for us to kind of control our destinies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of get into tarot, and I started seeing like there's only one tarot reader other than Coach Chen that I really enjoy, and she's still alive, and she lives in Austin. She's in South Austin, Slaughter Lane. Her name is Peggy. And once I found her, I went to her maybe 2 or 3 times, actually 3 times, maybe 4, before I became a tarot reader, because I needed somebody to talk to. I was going through a hard transition in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and her guidance was really helpful. So I think it's important, important work. If you can be a tarot reader and help somebody really gain some clarity,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's something that they don't want to hear, it's important. I've also seen tarot readers that just double down on the negativity, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like feeling bad, when I'm already feeling bad, so
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying it has to be a positive read, but I'm just saying that there's a certain amount, if you can deliver the message with some wisdom, is nice.
Yeah.
So
Death card's not always about death.
death is about rebirth, right?
Rebirth.
Yeah.
How did you develop your style? Because you have a style of reading, the way that you incorporate NLP, the way you incorporate Buddhism. How did that come to unfold? Did you have any mentors?
I would say Peggy, like I loved her style of reading, even though she just used one deck. But there's a woman that I follow on YouTube, and her channel is called White Feather Tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And she implements oracle cards and multiple decks. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
Oracle cards is the
Archetypes oracle.
That's an oracle
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of what you're doing, where you're implementing an oracle deck and your tarot deck.
Yeah.
And why do you think it's cool? What do you like about it?
I think that like when you have all these multiple decks, that the illustrations can really speak to somebody, or they're like in the archetype deck that's happened recently, where father came out, and the querent, the client was my father just passed, and then so you know what I mean, and so something like resonates,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of like it just, I don't know. I mean, it's the message that you needed to hear in that moment. And because the illustrations might be different or whatnot, then it might speak to you differently,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, like, let me just pick up this one. Like the sun card, this is a beautiful sun card, right?
Always a positive card.
Always a
right?
positive card. But then we have but to me, this is more like an energetic card. In the Rider Waite deck is the baby, on a horse, and that's very positive. But this is a woman, right? And you see all these photons, and the photons are,
It almost looks like a sunflower.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a sunflower, and the energy of photons, light. I mean, there's so much. Like, let me get another card.
What does that mean to you? Let me see the sun card.
Yeah.
Which deck is this from?
The Sightseers deck.
That is beautiful. It's a sunflower, and there's some kind of energy flowing out of the middle of it. And there's this dancing with jubilance and just freedom, almost ecstatic dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just that different cards read certain things differently. And I like that.
From different decks, you mean?
Yeah.
Like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck versus the Thoth or
Like,
the...
so this one, nobody likes the Three of Swords, right? And so if you look, if you look at the Rider-Waite deck, it's 3 swords and a heart. And it represents a lot of pain. But in the Rider-Waite deck, the heart's still intact. This heart's being torn apart.
Yeah, and being stitched back together. It seems like there's a...
Yeah.
It's being torn apart, and it looks like it's been put back together a couple times in the past.
Yeah.
You know, Linda, I love this aspect of tarot. The first thing I tend to do is I do this myself. I just look at the card.
Yeah.
And I think about what I feel about it.
Yeah. This Sage of Cups is really, this is from the Gay Tarot, and the Sage of Cups is the King of Cups. And so when you think of the King of Cups, it's a really positive card, but that doesn't look super positive.
Yeah, they look angry.
Right. And then, like, there's a guy in the
holding
middle.
them back, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
And so,
like a bar fight where someone's holding 2 people back that really...
right. And so sometimes, like, this card will pop up when people are having who are trying to repair a relationship, and maybe couples therapy, like a mediator almost,
Yeah.
but there's still love there. And so that card reads differently than a King of Cups. So I like the different art.
You like imagery. Which is where like a Marseille deck, where you would just have 6 swords, or on a...
It helps the querent understand. You know,
I agree.
Yeah,
because you're both looking at it,
right,
and you're both talking about what does this mean to you,
right. And so the World card here is
the last card in the deck.
card.
Yeah.
But like in this deck, though, in that one, it's on top of his shoulders. I mean,
Atlas.
Yeah. But he's got a very, even though, like, so you're strong enough to kind of hold on, you know what I mean, to take on the world.
Yeah.
So it can kind of speak, I don't know, I think it can mean different things.
How did you get to that style? Was it this the tarot reader that was online that you got exposed to? And
I did just like with practice, because while I was doing my Good Thoughts NLP, I was a psychic on a psychic hotline, called Purple Ocean, and people are paying by the minute. And so I have to read fast. I have to read really fast. Otherwise, you get really bad reviews. And so I got very good at being very quick. It's a good intuition practice. Like, you don't have time to look it up and feel the cards. You have to just say it, and connect with somebody, not face to face, but on the phone.
How fast was a fast reading?
I mean, I could read. I mean, you saw how fast I read.
Yeah. It's quick.
Yeah.
I still look through the books.
Yeah.
I read. I have multiple books that I go to.
And so, but then you're not using your intuition.
Right.
It's like riding a bike with training wheels.
Right.
So I do teach a workshop on how to read cards intuitively.
With intuition.
Right. And not just rely on the book.
That's really helpful for folks.
It is. And it's like, okay, we're not looking at anything.
And you got that by people needed it fast. So you're feeling it, and you're just going with your gut, which is intuition.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I try to teach people to do. And
what percentage of your life now is the NLP coaching versus the tarot reading?
I'm trying to, I would say tarot reading is like 80% and NLP is 20%.
Yeah.
Is
that a good balance for you?
Yes, because tarot actually pays better.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, NLP got a bad rap with all the pickup artists and the salesmen and dude,
it seems really bro-y too. Yeah.
That's because of the pickup artist and the salesman thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It depends on which. Did you do the woo-woo version of NLP?
No, I don't think so. I did. I mean, the people who do the INLP Center, they're accredited with the International Coaching Federation. And so they are recognized by another institution. So that was important to me.
So it's probably more psychology.
Is more psychology.
That's the one I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to kind of
Yeah.
to land this plane in a bit. Is there
Yeah.
anything you feel like we haven't covered that you'd like
No, I
to?
feel like we covered a lot. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me, and I can't wait to see how you'll take 2 hours and condense it.
I'm not going to condense it.
You're not going to condense it.
No.
These are 2-hour episodes?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, what I'll do is I'll have the questions. Phil Phails' 5 questions will be one separate thing.
Yeah.
And maybe your life story will be
Oh,
one
okay.
separate thing, and then they'll be in its entirety. But I don't know. I'm still
Yeah.
as Rumi says, as you walk along the path,
Mhm.
the path reveals itself.
I agree. So
Difference.
I'm hoping that you continue with this because,
Well, I think I would like to think folks would be excited to follow these journeys. I know I am.
yeah.
I sit over here
Yeah.
really excited and really, entertained.
Yeah, I know. I feel heard and seen, and I thank you so much. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look at that camera and then do a little outro real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. This has been Phil Phails at Woo Woo Therapy with Linda O'Neill. Let's wave at him. What up, that middle one? Bye, guys. Yeah. Can I have a hug? Do you hug? You a hugger?
Yeah. I gotta get.
You just that around.
Yeah.
You don't have to sneak out of it.
Yeah.